Hitachi Wagyu beef has a problem. You've probably heard of Wagyu beef. It's very expensive beef. I actually had an experience over the Golden Week vacation of eating very, very expensive food, and it does not agree with me. I am just too low class for that. So the thing is about Japanese expensive food always has a lot of fat, and that was problematic because I don't eat a lot of food with a lot of fat. So the fat kind of did a number on me. So I actually realized I don't enjoy a lot of expensive food. Hitachi Wagyu beef has a problem. It's not the problem that I don't like fatty food, but Wagyu beef does tend to have a lot of, like, it's marbled. It has a lot of fat in it. Not my thing, but that's not the problem. The problem isn't my preference. The problem isn't my preference. The problem is a different problem. It's the problem with Hitachi Wagyu beef and the kanji, the Chinese characters they use for that. Young people can't read it. It's an expensive item. It's based on its brand. It's based on its name. But if young people can't read the name, what happens then? So kanji, the Chinese characters, people in their 20s, 57% cannot read Hitachi Wagyu. 43% of people in their 30s could not read Hitachi Wagyu. When you get older, it got better. So 33% in their 40s couldn't read it, 35% in their 50s, and 22% in their 60s. So the kanji maybe was more common in the past, or maybe people were better at reading kanji. A lot of people are saying just like smartphones are making it harder for people to write. Like I was of the age where I learned cursive in school. I don't think kids learn that anymore. And in fact, I think typing might be a more valuable skill, but you still should learn how to write with a pen and stuff. But kids just can't do stuff. And it's not, I don't think this is not a judgment. This is not a negative thing. This is like the world changes. But people typing everything out on their phone means they're never actually writing the kanji. They just pick the appropriate kanji for the word they're writing. So they don't learn how to write it. And then in some cases, they don't learn how to read it properly because they just assume that the computer or the phone or whatever is telling them right. I actually had a student who couldn't type because they only had used their phone. They typed everything out on their phone. So when they had to type something on a keyboard, it was really hard for them. So they gave me the keyboard and I typed out what they said. And they were shocked at how fast I could type. It was like an amazing thing. Just like I was shocked at how fast they could type with 2 thumbs on their phone. But again, it's just what you grow up with. You grow up with touchpads, you learn to use touchpads really effectively. The Hitachi kanji is used different ways in Ibaraki. Ibaraki is the prefecture, and it used to be called Hitachi. This is very confusing. So as I was reading this, I got more and more confused, and I realized why I gave up on studying kanji. So I speak Japanese at I would say intermediate level would be generous, but at an intermediate level, I can do conversations and stuff. But I am essentially illiterate, and I'm illiterate because when I started studying kanji, I was like, I'm too old to be studying. I don't want to study anymore. And I give up, and I kind of just gave up on it, which is not the right attitude, but you do get tired of studying when you're old, and I am old. So Ibaraki is the prefecture. It used to be called Hitachi. The kanji has been used different ways. It is therefore very confusing for people. And that's why the younger people now, they haven't grown up with history or the understanding, so they understand it less than those people in their 60s, 22%. It was actually should be 88% could read it, 22% still couldn't. So it's still confusing to that group that we would assume actually grew up with this more logically. It's used different ways, which means some places like Hitachi Naka City, they've decided to just do away with the kanji altogether. And when they write the name of their city, they just use hiragana. Hiragana is the base phonetic version of Japanese. And it shows that the use of kanji, even in modern Japan, is a confusing and difficult thing. Again, sort of just justifying the fact that I quit studying. It'll be interesting to see how language now evolves in Japan, like where this is going to take us in the future. Are they going to use less kanji, or are they going to adopt other things? Are they going to start using English alphabet, even for Japanese words, that kind of stuff? It'll be interesting to see where this goes, because as young people grow up finding it harder and harder to read kanji, is kanji the way you want to go forward, or do they want to sort of double down and force more people to learn kanji? I actually think doubling down is very much a Japanese way of dealing with this sort of issue. Sister cities are great. I mean, it's a cultural exchange between the places, and you do class trips. Your high school's going to go somewhere. They're going to go to this place, and then you can go back. It's wonderful. I think sister cities are great. Cultural exchange is great. It also will involve politicians and older politicians. And if you've ventured to Ninja News Japan before, you kind of know where this is going when I say the words old politician. There was a government meeting, and it was the mayor and the government people from Dubbo City in Australia. Dubbo? I'm not sure how to say it. Dubbo. Dubbo. I'm going to say Dubbo. It's so Australian to make it a word like Dubbo. There's a city called Dubbo. It's the sister city. They're over. They're visiting. They're like, let's have an after party. There's a 71-year-old deputy speaker, and he's doing some karaoke. Now, I'm trying to work on a new segment, a new thing to do. And I'm not just going to just tell you the story. I was like, you know what we should do? We should make a quiz. You've listened to Ninja News Japan in the past. You know the kind of things that we end up coming up, the kind of things we talk about. So 3 options before I give you the answer. I haven't figured out a way to do this. I would like to get maybe a listener or someone to talk while we do this at the same time, but we'll work that out in the future. This is still the sort of testing phase. 3 options. What did the deputy speaker do to the mayor of Dubbo's daughter while singing karaoke? Option number 1, he did a lap dance while singing. Option number 2, he started to strip off his clothes. Number 3, he held the mic up to her private parts. So now I would need like some thinking music, like a dun 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 dun. Please have submitted your answers by now. So again, this is where I kind of maybe need a little interaction. I need someone, have someone on like the line and do the quiz with them so they can guess. But if you guessed number 3, ding, 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 you are correct. Now they didn't explain it very carefully, like very thoroughly. So I don't know if he was serenading her vagina or if he was holding the microphone up in the hopes that it would start singing. All we know is that he, while singing, got very close to her private parts, which is gross. I mean, I think that's a fair statement we can make. That is gross. He therefore, again, apologized. He said, I'm ashamed that I could not respond appropriately on the spot or apologize the same day. So the same day I think they were partying. He didn't figure out what he did, I guess, because they were drinking and stuff until the next day. And he's like, I'm sorry I waited so long. I was trying my best to make it into a party. It's an interesting statement because when I want to make something into a party, I want to get, everyone involved. I want to get people doing stuff. I don't immediately gravitate to someone's groin and start singing to it or trying to get it to sing to me. That's not my first instinct. I have not thrown any blockbusters of parties though, if we're being honest. Like my parties are very sedate and maybe that's it. Maybe I don't do enough crotch singing to really get the party started. So I'm waiting for some rapper to come out with a song about getting the party started by crotch singing. Either from the crotch or to the crotch. Either way works for me. He's sorry for the discomfort he caused. Nobody from Dubbo has responded. So this guy's apologized. He's put that statement out there and no one apologized. Apparently there is a picture of the mayor's daughter looking incredibly uncomfortable, which is very appropriate when a 71-year-old man starts singing at your crotch. There's a restaurant called Tamate Bako. And this is not the only one. It opened last month in Shibuya. And it's an all-you-can-eat seafood buffet kind of thing. So it's a tabe hodai. So basically tabe hodai. Hodai is all you can. And then tabe is eat. And then there's nomi hodai, which is all you can drink. And you pay a set amount of money. You can eat for an hour and you just order as much as you want. You have to eat it all within the hour, that kind of thing. It's pretty normal. The way the article presented it is that they have decided that foreign tourists should be charged more than Japanese people. So if you want to go for lunch just on a regular day, if you're Japanese, it's 5,478 yen. And if you are a foreigner, it is 6,578 yen. So basically 1,100 yen more. Friday being a more popular day, so like Friday dinner, that's going to be the most expensive time. If you are a Japanese person, it's 7,678 yen. If you're a foreigner, it's 8,778 yen. So again, 1,100 yen more for not being Japanese. The interesting way they worked around this was they said the higher price is the actual official price. And then if you're Japanese, you get a discount of 1,100 yen. So it's not that they're charging foreigners more, it's that they're actually charging Japanese people less, which was an interesting way to try to get around the racism or the discrimination that they're actually putting out there. The discount counts for Japanese people and residents. So very technically, if I went into this restaurant and I ordered this meal and I could show them my residence card, I should get the lower price. So is it biased then? That's the interesting thing. The justification for this is The yen's very weak, so Japanese people, their money isn't going as far where foreigners are coming in. They're getting more yen for their money, so they should be charged more because they're not paying taxes and things like that. It's a very thin argument. The governor said foreign travelers are Japan's guests, which I think is a pretty fair statement to make, and therefore they shouldn't be taken advantage of. They shouldn't be charged more. They shouldn't be treated in this way. I was interested, though, because if I went, would I get asked if I was a resident or not? Where they just assume that I'm a foreigner because, very foreign looking in Japan. And would they just then charge me the higher price? I don't know. It's an interesting question. I don't tend to find out because I actually don't think this is a nice practice. I think you just choose a price and you make that the price and you charge the price. So there's a guy who dresses up in a black suit and he puts on sunglasses and he goes out into the street. So again, this could be another opportunity for our quiz. So let's try out our quiz again. There are 3 options. What do you think he does? So he dresses up in a black suit and sunglasses. So he's trying to look pretty cool while he does it. So option number one, is he a Batman-like vigilante? He goes out and delivers vigilante justice. Number 2, he's going out and obstructing traffic on his bicycle. Or number 3, he rides his bicycle and he grabs women as he rolls down the street. So we need, again, a clip, some music, some thinking time. If you guessed number 2, which I would be surprised if you did, because I think if you're watching Ninja News Japan, you're listening to Ninja News Japan, you're thinking, it's going to be the butt grabbing on the bicycle. No, he rides out, and what he does is he rides in the middle of traffic and he swerves into oncoming traffic. Now, this is to freak out the drivers, to play a little chicken, to risk it. No one really knows why. He swerves into oncoming traffic, and they're saying to annoy drivers. He was arrested, and they suspect he is responsible for 42 similar incidences they're investigating now. He has claimed that he is not this person. He denies all the accusations. There is film of him doing this weaving in and out of traffic, which I will put up in the corner if you watch the YouTube video. The police have given a nickname, and I think criminals with nicknames is always a very interesting thing. Police have named him the pop-up cyclist because he comes out into traffic and then weaves into traffic, popping in and out of traffic, popping up out of nowhere. I guess they didn't call him disappearing. Very Batman-esque. That's where I got the first sort of option from, the Batman vigilante, because he just sort of disappears into the night. They searched his apartment, and that's where they found the same black suit and sunglasses he wears in the video, which I think makes him pretty much guilty. It's a Riri-chan reversal. So the last 3 weeks I've talked about Riri-chan, and I've actually thought I think we've done enough. Until she goes to or gets out of prison, there's not really much more to say about Riri-chan. I find her fascinating because she has a work ethic. She just applied it to crime. Whereas if she'd applied the same work ethic to something else, I think she would have been really successful. She clearly was able to do stuff. This is a guy who, and so she was taking, she was sugar baby Riri-chan. So she was doing sort of compensated dating and then defrauding men of money. This is a guy who is defrauding sugar babies. So I'm calling it the Riri-chan reversal. This guy swindles women who are looking to become sugar babies. So he meets people online and he says, hey, if you meet me, I'll give you 200,000 yen for a date. That's actually pretty good. That's half a month to a month's salary for some people. So he connects with them on a matching app. And then he says, I'm a vet. And it was an interesting choice because apparently being a vet is very successful because you work with animals. And no, he works with animals, but also you're a doctor. So it's very appealing. So you have the appeal of being a doctor, but also someone who works with animals all at the same time. So vet seems to be a very attractive profession. And so he chose that very carefully. He says, let's meet at the zoo where I work. So they meet at the zoo and then he walks around and goes, you know what? He seems very proud of the zoo while they're talking. He goes, you know what? But a lot of people know me around here. So let's just get out of here. And they go to a hotel. After talking for about 2 hours, I don't know if that's at the hotel or later, because again, the story jumps. The story actually said, go to a hotel, which would imply they go and have intimate relations. But then they immediately jumps to after talking for 2 hours. So I don't know. I would not go to a hotel to talk for 2 hours. I would go somewhere else if we were just going to talk. But he talks about his family and his love of boxing. And then he looks very serious and he says, I've left my wallet at home. Could you give me 20,000 yen for tickets so that I can buy tickets for boxing? And the woman has been promised 200,000 yen. So 20,000 yen on top of that to get paid back is not very much. So they go to the ATM, they get 20,000 yen, they give it to the guy. And then he says like, great, I'm going to go buy tickets. I'll see you again for a second date. I'll, the Japanese version of Venmo you the money. So it'd probably be like Line or PayPay or something like that. And I'll pay you back. And then they never hear from him again. So he's not doing the scale of Riri-chan, but he's working on low numbers of money, but large numbers of women. So trying to get a little bit amount of money out of everybody as opposed to just getting 2 or 3 whales and getting money out of them. The woman never heard from him again. And then she tried to contact the zoo. And the zoo says, there is no such person here, but we've had similar calls, which made the woman very suspicious. So she called up the police and said, I believe I've been defrauded. Now of 20,000 yen. He was banking on 20,000 yen not being very much money and the embarrassment of them saying, I want to be a sugar baby, to be enough to get them to stop from contacting the police. But this lady was like, no, I'm contacting the zoo, and the zoo's, maybe she actually liked him. Because she actually came out in her part of the interview, she was actually saying she was quite embarrassed about being defrauded this way. But it's just like those men I have sympathy for who are defrauded of millions of yen by Riri-chan. So I feel kind of bad for her. He says he's met about 50 women this way. So again, if you got 20,000 yen from each of them, that's a pretty fair sum of money. After the rest, he said, sorry, I feel bad for taking advantage of these women. He's not a vet. He's actually a day laborer. And then he said, this was the bit that actually kind of really struck me. I have always disliked animals. So the construction of him being a vet was a very conscious choice. I don't actually like animals, but women will like a man who likes animals. So I'm going to pretend to be a man who likes animals, so much so that it's become my profession, and that will appeal to women. And apparently it was successful. He was given 2 years, 6 months in prison, but it's been suspended for 4 years. So if he doesn't commit any more crimes, he will be scot-free. They, again, did not mention giving back any of the money. I actually am now very interested in how much and how do they give back to the money to these women? Do they give back the money to these women? Because this is one of those weird things where the fraud, it's done voluntarily. And again, this case, it's a very small sum. So is it worth suing over? Like if you sue the guy for 20,000 yen, you're going to pay probably a lawyer more than 20,000 yen just to file that suit. Riri-chan, on the other hand, she took millions. So getting a lawyer and suing her would make perfect sense because you want to get all your money back. But I actually bet it's all gone because she gave it all to Host and she doesn't have any money. So they'll just be like, if she ever works, they'll be docking her pay for years or something. I have no idea what's going to happen. Again, her situation, the consequences of what she's done are the interesting thing. It's just going to take a decade to find out what actually happens. So maybe Ninja News Japan ends at some point because I just, run out of content or run out of time or whatever. But I promise you, in 9 to 10 years, I'm going to come back if Riri-chan pops up again, if I'm still alive, and give you the ending of that story. Like, what has she done? What's happened since then? Because I'm interested in it, and I don't think I'm ever going to let this go. But it seems like being a sugar baby or a sugar daddy. There's a lot of fraud involved, so it's probably not going to work out the way you want it to. So I would say take all that initiative, take all that effort, and put it towards something else. I'm thinking of a suggestion to make right now that would be really positive and helpful for the world, and I can't think of any. I really can't. I don't do what I'm doing right now. This has produced no money whatsoever. But I haven't committed fraud. At least I'm not making money honestly. And that is the Ninja News Japan mission.